Hi, everyone. This is Amy Valdivia, and this is the Divorce Literacy Podcast. You know, when we've recorded podcasts in the past, you've heard us talk about all of the different facets of divorce, especially when it comes to the business of divorce, the home, the kids, and the money involved in the cost of a divorce. There's a different cost that I'd like to talk about today, and that's the emotional cost. And who better to help me explain and share with all of you exactly what all of that means is Beverly Price. She's a certified divorce and empowerment coach, as well as a pre-mediation coach. That is something new that we haven't heard a whole heck of a lot about. So I wanted to share a little bit about what Beverly does. Actually, I'm going to let her share. And then I want to dive deeper on how we can support those divorcing homeowners while they're in the middle of divorce. Thank you for joining me, Miss Beverly.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Amy. I'm so honored to be here.
Okay, let's jump right into this. Who's Beverly? How did you do this? And what exactly is this pre-mediation coach? We've not heard about this before.
Absolutely. Well, I'm an empowering coach who helps women through their divorce journey from the beginning to the midpoint and to life after, so that they can eliminate their pain and their overwhelm and their sadness and anger and resentment with more knowledge and skills and peace than I ever experienced myself, because I combine my personal divorce experience that a lot of divorce coaches do with my professional training to help them. And I've been doing this for over 30 years. So I live in South Carolina, so I'm in the opposite coast from you, Amy. And I love what I do. I love helping women move through the divorce and get rid of their pain and go on to a happy life. Now, the pre-mediation coach is really something new. And it's a certification program that was developed specifically around the concept of mediation and ADR principles, where what we do is we fully prepare the client to walk into that mediation process as comprehensive and as intelligent and as prepared as possible, whether that's gathering information, whether that's assessing their positions versus interests, and just fully getting ready for the negotiation process.
Now, let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
We're preparing for mediation, and there was that word empowerment in your title. You work with both men and women, or only one?
Women.
Okay.
I specialize in women, and part of that's due to my own personal experience and the ability to relate to women the best. There are lots of good divorce coaches for men, and I'm happy to refer men to them as well.
And is there a specific age range that you find is visiting with you, or does it not matter?
It's typically around 35 to 55, I would say, which is also kind of the range where the majority of divorces happen in, that age range.
Tell me a little bit about the profile of that woman.
That woman has typically been married for a few years, some upwards of 20, some downwards of 10, may have children, whether they are in the home or grown, have experienced a lot of, I would say, verbal, emotional abuse, and have tried to make their marriage work desperately, but nothing seemed to work. And so they kind of threw their hands up and said, I can't take anymore. I deserve better than this, and I'm going to move on with my life.
Tell me what that process looks like on your end, because I'm already thinking about, okay, she's preparing them for mediation. This is all the pre-work, the emotional work, because mediation becomes part of the business. True?
Right.
So walk me through the process.
Well, I actually work on divorce, the entire divorce process, whether it's litigation or settlement and mediation. And the process is similar in some ways. And it starts with assessing where that client is. And the coaching will look different depending on where that client is. For example, if a person has come to me because they're struggling emotionally, they're full of resentment, full of anger, full of fear, then we go through a process to eliminate those fears and that resentment, because one of the biggest mistakes you can make in a divorce is to let your emotions hijack you, or to try and process all of your emotions with your attorney, which is going to cost a fortune. So what we try and do is work with those emotions, because that way it frees up space in your brain for clearer thinking and better decisions. If you go into a divorce or mediation being driven by your emotions, you're going to wake up 2 or 3 years from now and kick yourself and say, I didn't make the best decisions for myself and my family. Because it's been scientifically shown that you cannot think straight when all of that is going on in your brain and in your emotional makeup.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it's just even like buying a car, because you just absolutely love the red sports car or what have you. You go in and you end up negotiating terribly because
Right.
your emotions are taking control. The School of Hard Knocks taught you a whole lot about how to become the coach that you are today. However,
Absolutely.
you did require, and you are certified, true?
Absolutely. It's the most important thing. And I would tell anybody that's looking for a divorce coach to make sure that that divorce coach is trained, certified, and practiced. And the reason being, there are people that get divorced and think because they've gotten a divorce, they can teach everybody how to do it. But there's a lot of difference from divorce to divorce. You know, for example, I've been married more than once. And in one of mine, the marriage was and the divorce was very cordial. It was very civil. It was very businesslike. And we went on to co-parent very smoothly. In another, it was very abusive, very nasty, very high conflict. And so those two opposite ends of the spectrum require a totally different approach. So if my personal experience is only one of those, I might only think I know how to help. The other aspect is there's a significant amount of training involved in knowing how to coach well. It's not just like talking to your best friend.
It's not picking up the phone at 2 a.m. and just saying, well, okay, let's talk through this and grab a cup of tea. It's a little bit more than that. I presume a lot of psychology.
Yes, a lot of psychology, but probably more than that, a lot of emotional management. And trying to move a person from the place of negativity to positive thinking. It's a lot of mindset work, learning how to shift those pathways in the brain that we've created that are negative to new ones that are positive, so that we can move through that journey. And then a good bit of it is, once you've been through that divorce, is what do you need to build that wonderful ideal life going forward? What emotions, what skills, what knowledge do you need? And the reason I say empowerment is because I want women to come out stronger, the new and improved version. And I believe knowledge and working with a coach is your power.
So 2 follow-up questions to that.
Sure.
Pre-divorce, post-divorce.
Correct.
And definitely work with them through divorce, especially
Right.
mediation certification that you have. I presume that's number one, that's true. However, I presume that all of this ties into the children as well. Now, you don't work with the children, you work with mom for the child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are plenty of really talented certified parenting coaches that can work with parents and children together, that I refer my clients to as well. But I work with clients at the very beginning, whether they're just not sure if they want a divorce or not, but we're going to bring clarity to that decision making. Then I help clients with one of the most important moments in the divorce, and that is planning for that conversation you're going to have with your spouse that you want that divorce. That is absolutely the most critical conversation, because it's going to set the stage for the entire rest of your divorce. So we role play, we process emotions, and we role play and we role play until you get comfortable We look at what is the setting. We want to do everything to make sure that discussion is as cordial and as civil as possible for the sake of you and your children.
And it's surprising to me that you have the ability to role play and role play and role play, because in my mind, I'm thinking many women are afraid to even ask for help.
Yes.
They're afraid to even ask, should I even get a divorce? Because they're afraid of what the answer is, right? So in my mind, I was thinking they're not coming to you until they already know, okay, I'm going to be in a divorce situation.
Some of them do. Some of them do. It just really depends. If everything worked out the way, the best way possible, which we all know life doesn't happen that way, they would come to me when they're considering divorce, and then we would take it all the way through their recovery. But frequently I might get a referral from a certified divorce financial analyst, so the process has already started. Or I might get a referral from an attorney and the process has started. Sometimes if they're referred by a friend, it might be sooner in the process, because they may have told that friend that I'm thinking a divorce, but I'm not sure. And in one case, I got a referral from a soon-to-be ex-sister-in-law.
So it's a whole family affair.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you and I first met, I was so intrigued.
Wonderful time.
It was a great conversation, the very first one we had. But I was very intrigued by what you do, because I'm very much part of the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that as I was talking to clients, I'm trying to extract information because I have to crunch numbers. That's my job. That's my lane. And then I kept hearing but my kids, they're so accustomed to the Christmas tree right there in that front of that window. We don't want to lose our home. Where are we going to go? Things like,
Right.
how do you move that woman with her children to the point where, okay, now it's time to talk to Amy and talk about how you're going to keep this home? What are some of the things that you help with?
Sure. Well, one of the biggest fears in divorce is what happens to the marital home. The next biggest, or the first biggest fear, is finances. The second biggest fear is co-parenting or the children. And the third is marital home. And so that's where you and I intersect, between emotion and facts and figures. And so frequently what happens is, I had said earlier, I believe knowledge is power. And when a woman panics and is just all upset about, can I keep the marital home? Can I not? Boom, phone call to Amy. You need the facts to eliminate the fears.
Right.
Now, let's say Amy tells her there's no way you can keep the marital home, or you can keep the marital home, but your standard of living is going to need to change drastically, right?
Right.
So then we walk through that and start assessing, okay, what's really the most important factor here? What is your position? Are you worried about the children changing schools? Are you worried about the familiarity of the real estate? Are you worried about not having the support of a carpool and other resources you have because you're there locally? Are you worried that if you have to move, you'll be so far from work or you can't afford it? So you really have to dissect what the fear is. And there are many, many fears of people in this process, not just the marital home, but there are fears like, am I going to live the rest of my life alone? Fear of, are my children going to be psychologically messed up? Right. All of those. And just like any of them, you combat them with information, skill building, and practice. The other thing I do that's a little bit unusual is I combine my business background and I measure their progress over time, so that we make sure that they're moving forward instead of moving backward in how they're feeling and doing.
You answered all my questions, all of that, because I was going straight for, okay, we're collaborative, we work together. That's the big buzzword in divorce these days, collaboration. And of course, we're hearing a lot more about mediation, and it depends on where you are in the country. It's truly
Yep.
about creating this team that supports you in your divorce. And
Yes.
you touched upon all of that. That's why we work together. And that's really why we hit it off so well when we first met. When you are thinking about your cases,
Mm-hmm.
what's the most memorable case that just really, really sticks with you and gave you your, this is why I do it moment?
There was a young woman that came to me and she couldn't get 2 sentences out without crying. She had been separated from her spouse for a couple of years, but she was still emotionally entangled with him. He constantly cheated on her and he expected her to support him financially. In other words, he wanted a mother rather than a wife. She took that all on herself and blamed herself and said there was something wrong with him or something wrong with her because he didn't act differently. She was depressed. She was seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist in me. And we worked diligently. We worked twice a week through this, to the point that 2 days before mediation, she shows up on her client call, and all of a sudden there's a different woman there. There's a happy, there's a content, there's a logical thinker and smiling. And I said, okay, what's happened? She said, I don't know, but something's happened. And my therapist even asked me what happened. She said, the work we're doing is making a change. Then we walked her through the mediation. She did it with grace and clarity and strength. And now we're working on her recovery afterwards. But that moment where I saw her flip from miserable to strong was the greatest gift I could have ever received.
That's awesome. What a beautiful, beautiful story, I have to tell you, because there have been women that I have talked to, and you just think, boy, I mean, they've got nothing to hang on to, and they're just grasping, and please, anybody help. And so it's so beautiful to hear that story. And I'm so grateful that you shared that. So please tell the listening audience, you can support people all across the nation.
Yes.
And all around the world, actually.
Yeah, as long as they're English speaking, yes.
And most of your appointments are done via Zoom?
All of them, yes.
Okay. If a client wants a telephone interview only and doesn't want to do Zoom, how do you feel about that?
That's fine.
Okay. And most importantly, how can they find you?
They can go to my website, herempowereddivorce.com. And you can find me with Her Empowered Divorce on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And I'm also a podcast host of a podcast called Her Empowered Divorce that you can find wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube.
Thank you. If there's one bit of advice that you can leave with a divorcing woman that's listening to this right now, what would you say to her?
There's so many pieces. There is hope. There is hope that life can get better. And while hearing that phrase, it takes time, kind of is like pouring salt into a wound. There's an element of that. But when you go through it and you're willing to work on yourself, change can happen and create a wonderful life.
That is wonderful. And it gives hope.
Yes.
I am so grateful that you spent some time with me today. Is there anything else you want the listening audience to know?
No, I think that's it. I think one particular element is I would always look to a core team of a divorce coach, a a certified divorce financial analyst, and a legal professional for anyone, whether you're under emotional duress or not, to go through it, because a divorce coach can save you time, money, and pain. CDFAs provide you with information to create knowledge. And early on, if you have a marital home or if you're thinking about buying a new property, you must bring in a CDLP, because a CDLP is going to know things that a traditional mortgage lender isn't going to know. And you deserve the absolute best and most accurate information possible. So always turn to a CDLP.
We're going to just make that the commercial. That was fantastic. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate that. I'm grateful for your time today. Thank you. And we look forward to talking to you more in the future.
Thanks so much, Amy. You have a great day too.
Take care.